Reza Al-Farazi sent me a friend request. Of course she did. My hair's wet. I just got out of the shower. Is anybody else noticing that you smell more when you're at home? Like, science should dictate that when you're up and about and doing things that you should perspire more and therefore you should smell more. But I genuinely feel uncleaner when I'm sat around at home doing nothing all day. Science, man. Science. (2020), the year of entertaining yourself at home. Despite the depressing overtone of the current situation, it's a time to be thankful. Thankful for your health, thankful for your home, thankful for your loved ones, and most importantly, thankful for stable and consistent 200 meg fibre optic broadband. See, unfortunately, all story-driven single-player campaign games come to an end, and since we're all at home, I've found myself finishing all of mine. It's why we're lucky to live in the era of online gaming, you know, where you can play games that literally don't end. You can just play and play and play. No. My last week has been pretty much evenly split between raiding my collection to find single player games and being on infinite hold with my internet service provider, who I absolutely refuse to name and slander.
Hello there, you're through to Presex Media. How can I help you today?
Hi, yeah, my internet's been basically unusable for a week now. Is there anything that you can do about it?
Well, I can direct you to our online troubleshooting page if you like. I can forward you a link.
I've just waited over an hour to tell you that my internet doesn't work, and you want me to go online to fix it.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that, sir. If you like, you can process an online complaint. I can forward you a link.
What are you not understanding here? My fucking internet doesn't work. But every cloud has a silver lining. Like I said before, having no internet really got me thinking about what single player games I'd played over the recent years that sort of really encapsulated what a great single player game was. So I bring you what I believe to be the best 8 single player games that you can play at home whilst your internet service provider seemingly does nothing about your area outage, apart from tell you that you should check regularly online, despite knowing that by its very definition an outage means that you have no fucking internet. Alternatively, the best 8 single-player campaigns in recent history. So, a few stipulations before I get into the list. Firstly, I'm only going to be talking about games that have been released between 2016 and now. That gives us a bank of 4 years, and I think that's reasonable enough to say that it's kind of a recent game. Secondly, I'm excluding any games that you can sort of beat easily in one sitting. I'm talking about games that have like at least 8 hours plus content in them. The game has to have a substantial amount to do in it. And finally, and most importantly, these games require no internet connection to play. And that's it. Strap in. Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. Fucker. 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 Fucking fucker. Number 8 is Far Cry 5. Generally speaking, I think FPS games do better online nowadays. PvP always tends to be the most fun that I have on an FPS. The big exception for me though is Far Cry. Far Cry 3 was the quintessential story-driven FPS of its time in my opinion. 4 was decent enough. Primal sucked a bag of dicks. and suddenly Ubisoft were on the precipice of destroying a franchise. 5 had to be a return to form, and to be fair to them, they absolutely delivered on that. Opinions are split on the antagonist Joseph Seed, but for me he was creepy and disturbing in all the right ways. He's definitely not Vass, but he's the best thing since. The story kept me hooked, the world kept me coming back long after the main story had finished, until I'd seen and done everything there was to do in Hope County. Apart from that fucking mansion. What's in that fucking mansion? Number 7 is Jedi Fallen Order. I was pumped for this game, a Soul-style game in Star Wars universe, a fucking Jedi sim. Sign me the fuck up. But the game is built like shit. It's entry level in the wall breaking game. Like, if you rub along any collision detection on that game for long enough, you will probably fall through it and out of the map. I don't know if the devs had like a strict deadline that the publishers had set that they couldn't go beyond, and as a result they didn't properly test collision detection in the game, but it's a fucking state. However, this and a few other bugs do not detract from what is a fucking blast of a game. I'm not taking this list lightly. Like, despite its bugs, this is still one of the best games out there right now in my opinion. The worlds are amazing to explore and you're rewarded for doing so. The enemies respawn after you use bonfires. I think they're meditation stations in this game. So the areas always feel alive. You can't just clear an area and then wander around it with nothing to fight. The story is great and worthy of its place in the Star Wars canon. I would describe this game as a raw diamond. It's like mining a raw fucking diamond, because it's unpolished, but it will still change your fucking world. Number 6, Final Fantasy 15. Hold on, hear me out. I can't honestly say that I was gripped by a Final Fantasy game since Final Fantasy 9, and that Final Fantasy fire that once raged inside me just sort of dwindled away with the PS1. And it became one of those franchises that I would look back on with fond memories. But you know, as time goes on, memories fade, yada yada yada. Anyway, I saw Final Fantasy 15 in cash converters mislabeled for a £5. This was the year that it came out. This was like not 6 months after its release. So I wandered sheepishly over to the counter. And the guy on the counter scanned it and he was like, doing this. And then he mumbles, it's coming up as 35 quid. And internally I'm like sweating, beads of sweat all over my internal forehead. But outwardly I just looked at him like this. As if to say, £35? Surely not. Like, that's the mistake here, not the £5. And after his eyes met mine, he looked back down and said, but it says £5, so I'll put it through at £5. So I'm going to take the credit for that. I'm going to say that was me. Fucking result. Anyway, I was so impressed with my get for £5. Like, this game that was £35, £40 everywhere else, still £40 brand new, that I was determined to give this one an honest go. And I did not regret it. The fire was reawoken inside me. I started to remember all the things that made Final Fantasy such a great series in the first place. You don't just put a Final Fantasy game in and instantly enjoy it. That's part of its problem. In fact, in some cases you even dislike what's in front of you at first. That's because everything about these games is unfamiliar. They don't operate or play like traditional Western games. At first, the characters come across overdone and caricature-like. The combat isn't straightforward combat and doesn't feel as instantly rewarding. The map systems can seem overcomplicated or overwhelming. The dialogue that you can have with basically any NPC just seems like streams and streams of pointless shit. And the story just seems so Japanese, it's painful. But then, after 4 hours or so on the games, all of that starts to change, yet it all stays exactly the same. You suddenly realise that you fucking love the characters and you couldn't be paid money for them to change. You suddenly start to understand the merit in the combat and see that it's a finely tuned mechanic specific to the Final Fantasy game that you're playing, and that allows you to take on some magnificently crazy enemies in some ridiculous and magical ways. the map comes alive and you realise that all the things that made it complicated are all the same reasons that you'll never run out of things to do. The charm of the world and its inhabitants grip you tightly, and all of a sudden all those pointless conversations with NPCs become something you're happy to engage in. The story presses all the right buttons so that when you come out of the other side, you'll be looking back at Final Fantasy 15 like it's one of those summers that you'll never ever forget, but that you also can't live again. Profound, profound, very profound. Number 5 is Resident Evil 7. This is the shortest game on the list, and to be honest, it's probably teetering on the edge of the rules that I set out. Because someone doing a standard run through of this game could probably push themselves and complete it. To just run through the main story, it probably takes around 12 hours to complete this game. However, I'm talking about my experience and the way that I experienced playing it. Now, I played it through the PlayStation VR. Now, unless you're a complete fucking psychopath, I don't see you taking this game down in VR in one sitting. At least not the first time you play it. No fucking chance. It is hands down the most immersive and genuinely terrifying time I've ever had playing a video game. Now, fortunately for me, I'm one of those people who can play VR games with free motion, and it doesn't make me sick, which I know a lot of people struggle with, and the game does allow you to change through different modes of movement, but obviously the one that feels most natural is natural movement. And honestly, playing that game with the VR headset on, with how good it looks, and being able to move like natural movement, it is fucking unreal. It feels like you're there. Every corner you turn, you feel like you're there. Every floorboard that creaks, you feel like you're there. Every jump scare, every offering of intensity is multiplied tenfold by wearing the VR headset when you play this game. The game itself is a triumph and a fantastic return to form for the franchise, but if you decide to experience it, do your damnedest to experience it in VR. Trust me, you will not regret that decision. Number 4 is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, 2019's Game of the Year. I'll be honest, I bought this game at launch. I got as far as the Blazing Bull. I tried to beat the Blazing Bull about 30 times, and then I just thought, no, fuck this, and I just never went back on the game. Fast forward to the end of the year when the nominations came out for the Game of the Year. I was like, right, it's on that list, I'm going to have to finish it. So I dusted down my samurai sword, I jumped back in, and fuck me, thank God that I did. The thing is, between the start of the game and the Blazing Bull, it's a fucking chug. Like, it got the classic From Software learning curve, and that's where you do all your learning. And stupidly I put it down at that point, so I had to fucking figure it all out again. But learning the combat is pure putrid. It's a pure putrid grind. But once it's down, it's fucking down. And only then will you feel the real value of the game. It's a From Software game, so you will have to try, and I mean try really fucking hard to master this game. But once you do get there and you can go toe to toe with any of the enemies, there are few games that will feel as good or as rewarding, and ultimately finishing the game itself is the greatest reward. The sense of achievement that you'll get from doing so is just, it's ridiculous, man. Not only is the gameplay amazing, but it just looks pure mouth-watering as well. It's just such a nice game to look at. Number 3, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This was a launch title on the Switch. It came out with the Switch on day 1, and it's still, in my opinion, the best game available on the Switch. This one sees Link's latest adventure move to a more open world setting. You can literally go anywhere, basically. There's little to restrict you from doing so. Every inch of the world just screams to be explored. Like, even now, 3 years after getting the game, I'm still finding areas that I've never been in. It's not the most challenging Zelda experience we've had, and if you go into this game and just play the main story from start to finish, you might come out the other end feeling a little bit underwhelmed. But that's your own stupid fucking fault, because how could you not want to explore this magical rendition of Hyrule? The soundtrack is impeccable, which is nothing short of what we would expect from a Zelda game. There's just so much fun to be had on Breath of the Wild, If you own a Switch, I do not condone you not owning this game. It is pure treason not to own that game and own a Switch. Especially if your internet is red hot shit. Number 2 is Celeste. Seriously? Yes, fucking seriously. There's a reason that this game is in and amongst Titans on this list. This game is living proof that if the concept is right, the gameplay is solid, and the time is spent properly creating the game, that anybody can create games that can push aside giants like toddlers. This game was programmed by just 2 people. The game is an emotional journey up Celeste Mountain. The game's main protagonist, Madeline, quite literally battles her own demons. Yes, on the surface, this game seems like a modern rendition of a 16-bit platformer, but it's one of those rare gems where the fluidity of gameplay, the impact of the music, the art style and colours, the characters and story all come together into this cocktail that makes you feel like you're experiencing something more profound than the sum of its parts. The game is a literal journey of all the senses, good and bad. It'll make you work unforgivingly hard to reach the summit of Celeste Mountain, but when you do, you'll feel like you've been given something that you can never give back. I honestly can't recommend this game enough. Before I reveal number 1, I want to talk about a possible point of contention, and that is Red Dead Redemption 2. Is this game a masterpiece, stylistically at least? Absolutely. The level of detail in this game is basically unfounded, and honestly I had a really good time playing it. But I just have to be honest with you and say that it doesn't make this list for me. It's not that the game isn't good, there's a lot of good games that didn't make this list, and it's probably just personal preference, and I know people are going to disagree with me, but here goes. For me, Red Dead Redemption 2 is basically an open world game that goes against so many of the things that makes open world gaming so fucking good. It's a game that doesn't reward you enough for engaging with the world and what it inhabits. The game just kind of seems like it always wants me to progress with the main story or do the immediate side quests that are around my camp or the city that I'm in at the time. Not to mention there's basically one way to do every mission. When you're given a mission, it's like, go meet this person here or blow this truck up with this particular item that we've just given you in order to do so. The game gives the illusion of complete player autonomy, but actually, in my opinion, it's very cleverly restrictive. Don't get fucking mad. I enjoyed the game, okay, just not as much as I wanted to, or as much as clearly some other people did. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the best game of all time. I'm sorry, but it's just not. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's talk about number 1 on this list. God of War. Holy fucking shit, this game is a goddamn masterpiece. God of War somehow takes that blade-wielding psychopath Kratos and turns him into a wholly investable, deep and complex character. The game is an epic, action-packed, heartwarming journey with Kratos and his son who are out to spread the ashes of their wife/mother. Kratos is still relentlessly brutal, but he has this kind of internal struggle going on between the kind of man that he wants to be for his son and what his past dictates him to be. The journey is as much about Kratos discovering and understanding parenthood as it is about the physical journey that you go on in the game. And then there's that, the physical journey. The combat just feels so satisfying and the enemies are varied. You just won't get bored of slaying beasties on the game. The environments are just so rich and look beautiful. They've really encapsulated this idea of this being a mythical land that you're in. It's just fucking ace. There's plenty more to do when the main story ends as well, and the quality of some of the side quests sets a new benchmark for what a side quest can and should be. The single and only disappointing thing about this game is that it eventually does come to an end, and we have yet got no information about when we're going to get the next one. Side note as well, if you go onto the PlayStation official YouTube, there's a documentary on there that follows the creation of this game from its conception until its release, and it is just such a good watch. You should really check that out. Anyway, that is it for this video. Hopefully I can get it out to you soon, but that largely depends on Ricky B and the gang. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up button. It'll help me out a lot. If you have anything to say, please let me know in the comments below. If you're new here, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.